and welcome to Soluble, America's Political Central. We're going to be discussing politics today, as usual, trying to solve as always. Now we have a little more than a week to go um, before the debates, before the Republican debates start, and the beginning of a new election cycle, frankly, the beginning of a new election cycle. And so, here we are, 247 years in. Let me reemphasize 247 years in as a country. We haven't made it to the quarter of a millennial mark yet. We're 3 years out. And, shamefully to say, woefully to say, we're dealing with pretty much the politics of race. And our goal is always to solve, and we're looking for that open debate. We're looking to, bring back that old school compromise that we, kind of grew up with. Those, if those of us are old enough to remember, where politicians reached across the aisles in order to get something done. So, we're at this critical juncture in American history. Where, as I said, shamefully, we're dealing with the politics of race now, because we've had the first African American president in American history, and along comes former President Trump with serious pushback, on that. Starting with things like false accusations of the birth certificate, misprinted, documented, and those type of things. It was not a legitimate presidency. It was just a great knock there on former President Obama, because of the fact being that he was the first African American president. So, to put it all out there, telling it like it is, we feel here at Soluble, the best way to solve is to put it all out there and tell it like it is. So, from our position here, 247 years in, here we are in America, 247 years, founded in genocide, made in slavery. And we're still, right here stuck in this perpetual grind, if you will, dealing with the politics of race after the first African American president in American history. Now, as I said, we're less than a little bit more than a week away from the first, Republican debate on August the 23rd. And, Democrats, we have to rally, like never before. Because this is something that, we wouldn't think that we would see a repeat, in. But right now, the former president, is the leading nominee in the primaries, heading into the first debate. By all polls, he's leading. By accounts of all MAGA circles, he's the man. And so, here we are again. What goes around has regrettably come round again in the Republican Party. And we have the former president who's looking forward to his fourth indictment, so that it will solidify his numbers even more. Now, that wasn't something that you thought you heard. And as crazy as it sounds, this is where we are. This is where we are. We have the leading nominee by accounts of all polls, working on a fourth indictment, and he's looking forward to it because it will help solidify his poll numbers even more. As crazy as it sounds, that's where we are with our fellow Republicans. And, we're appealing to our, fellow Republicans across the aisle to stop governing with folded arms. Stop governing from the position of being a party of no. And let's get something done on behalf of the American people. And, you know, sadly, once again, sadly and regrettable, those are the only words that I can think of here to describe what's going on. We're stuck in investigations. I mean, if you go back in our archives before the midterms of 2022, you know, we stress how we need to stop the red wave in order to prevent these investigations from happening, because it was going to be investigation after investigation instead of legislation. We spoke on it before the midterms of 2022, and lo and behold, we find ourselves in this ridiculous position here in America. And, you know, Democrats, we have to rally. We have to rally more than ever. We can't get discouraged. We can't become confused. And, you know, here we have a party that's has some power, because the American people have decided to put the power in the hands of Democrats. And we control 2/3 of power in Washington, D.C., being the Oval Office in the Senate. You know, of course, the Republicans are hanging on with a slim majority in the House. But we have to take that agenda that we have, that the American people have given us, as far as to say, I'm going to vote Democrat between the two candidates. You know, if the independent party puts a viable candidate up for election, as Democrats, we would have to take a long look at that. But as of yet, it hasn't happened. So as Democrats, we're appealing. We're humbly appealing for the sake of the country to look at this from a sane point of view, to see which party ideologue has the best chances of moving America forward for the better. For the better. And so, you know, here we are in this day and age also, where we have a former president. We have a former President Trump, who's raised his right hand and took the oath of office. And then he's broken the oath just by simply denying a peaceful transfer of power. That's part of the oath, along with other things. He's raised his hand, he's sworn to an oath, and he's violated the oath, but he's still the leading nominee leading into the first debate of the Republican primaries. And so, you know, we have to double down also for the sake of the country. Because, you know, right now, and please understand, we're dealing with a situation where it's the former president or the Constitution, if he was to get into office again. Because the president has demonstrated on several occasions that he doesn't respect the Constitution, the law on which the country was founded. You know, set forth with a set of rules to govern, a way to govern, a system of checks and balances, a system of rights. And the president has demonstrated, as I said, on several occasions. And so here we are. There's a choice here, because once again, it's not one and the same. The former president and the Constitution is not one in the same when it comes to these two things go together for America. And we've never seen this before. We've never been able to say this before. We've never had to say this. If the president was there, if the former president was there aligned with the Constitution and had respect for this governing document, this sacred document that was put forth by the framers, and that America has followed ever since. If he had respect for the document and for the laws and the way that the country is governed, he would recuse himself. He would step down. But no, what he does is double down. And so there's a price to be paid here. If we as Democrats, don't rally to the occasion, if we don't rise to the occasion, there's a price to be paid here. And this is a price not in dollars. This is a price that a great possibility from what we've seen in January 6th, 2021, that it could be, a price paid in innocent bloodshed, in unnecessary bloodshed, simply because the former president, was a sore loser. He couldn't concede defeat, because he's an egomaniac. And he'll say or do anything to win. And so, it's all on the line. At this critical juncture, being 247 years in, established, we've been through a lot. There's been a lot of pain. There's been a lot of suffering. There's been a lot of fighting in the name of liberty, here at home and abroad, to protect freedom, to protect the democracy. And as a country, 247 years in, we should be continuing to move forward. But here we are, because the Democratic Party put the best man for the job at the time in the Oval Office, who just so happened to be a Negro. Then here we are. Here we are. And, when you look at all the things that the former president has done, all the violations, so many lies that the fact checkers can't keep up, the innocent blood of American people on his hands, with a MAGA mentality that he's fomented. How he could be leading in the polls, is, something that we can only draw one conclusion from. Because, this is something that we would never have saw coming before, from a contender for the White House when the president first ran in 2016. With all the unpresidential things that he did, we, here at Soluble, we didn't see him making it that far into the Oval Office because he was so unpresidential on the campaign trail, encouraging violence, mocking war heroes, mocking the disabled, just to name a few. And we never thought that the president would make it into the Oval Office. But lo and behold, here we are. Here we are. And so, to have the threat of a repeat is just, really mind-blowing. But here is something that you must understand as Democrats, and why it's important to vote and protect liberty and protect the rights and freedoms of all Americans, whether you're native born or whether you've immigrated. The former president, has been able to withstand, and no matter what he says or does, as I said, he's working on his fourth indictment. Count them, 4. In spite of all of this, the president is just racist enough. He's just racist and uncaring enough to get the job done. So that's first and foremost, because, once again, starting with the truth, there is, something that's been put out there, a phrase that the media has conjured up. I don't know if it came from the right, left, or where, but it's been dubbed the Browning of America. Meaning that, the population is becoming more and more equal. The numbers are starting to become the same. And so, this is driving fear into the hearts and minds of a lot of racist Caucasians. Let's just be frank about it. And at 247 years in, we're stuck on race. We're dealing with the politics of race. And so we have to get it out of the way. And, there have been, once again, artful creations, artful labelings that we as Democrats, we're being pushed right now. And so we have to push back. There's a lot going on in the country, in the world. can you imagine anyone from the state of Hawaii right now who is a Republican or just who is an American citizen, but especially a Republican voter? Could you imagine someone from Maui or anywhere over there in the islands where this disaster has occurred, to be given a horse's foot about what is going on with the so-called Biden crime family? And this is where this is what the Republicans are doing with their simple majority, with their small majority. But this is where we're at. This is where we're at. Investigations run amok. And we've told you this. Now, here we are where, in Democrats, we must definitely, take a long look at this. We're being pushed, and we have to push back to protect, in order to protect democracy, for the sake of protecting democracy and the republic itself. Here we are where Attorney General Garland has, he's elevated Mr. Weiss to the position of special counsel, which is something that the Republicans have been, wanting here for the last couple of months. They've been talking about it. They've been suggesting it. And here we have, Attorney General Garland basically capitulating. He's caved to the Republicans. He's acquiesced because, they've said it enough. They've been vocal enough and repetitive enough in saying that there's partisanship. There's corruption in the DOJ. There's corruption at the FBI. Now, they haven't brought forth any evidence, but they said it enough, and it wears on the psyche. And we can understand it. It riling the MAGA base up and the Republican base up. We get that. We get that part of partisan politics. But Democrats, there's no way that we can support our Attorney General who has been put into office by a sitting president, who has been put in office by the American people. And so, we the people have spoken. And if we put a Democrat in the position of power, in the highest office of the land, he didn't just walk in there on his own or just take it by force, or just, he picked himself and said, I'll be president. It's we the people who put him there. But yet here we have the Attorney General Garland caving into a minority. There's no there. There's nothing there. But in the spirit of patriotism, for lack of a better word, our position here at Soluble is that Attorney General Garland is caved to show the world, show the Republican Party, show America that there's no biasness. There is no, corruption. There's no deep state within the DOJ or the FBI that is going after Republicans. But he doesn't have to do that. He doesn't have to do that. And so, we definitely have to push back here, because what Attorney General Garland has basically done is he's caved in, and the Republicans have yet to produce a shred of evidence that would, begin to cement the fact that there is a Biden crime family lurking in Washington, D.C. and holding high positions of power. They haven't produced a shred of evidence. So we don't understand here at Soluble, we don't understand what the Attorney General is doing here. This will solve nothing. As we've seen now, he's appointed special counsel to Mr. Weiss, which is something that the Republicans have wanted all along. And now you hear, Republicans like Senator Ted Cruz saying that, Attorney General Garland himself should be under investigation. Where does it stop? Where does it end? I'll tell you. Our position here at Soluble is the only way we're going to solve the Republican Party governing with folded arms and being the party of no is to vote them out of office. I mean, Republican voters, we understand you're conservative, you're Republican, but what are you getting here, and what are you trying to give to the country? What are you trying to give to the country here? A president who's working on his fourth indictment and is somewhat looking forward to it because it helps his poll numbers. There's a lot of smoke here, ladies and gentlemen. And you have Republicans who've had power, who've controlled the DOJ through Attorney General Barr. They've controlled the FBI with appointee Wray, who's still in the position. The current president hasn't removed him. Can you imagine Director Wray, being there, being the head of the FBI, and allowing a liberal, left-leaning, deep state to corrupt the FBI to the point where, they're going strictly after Republicans with no solid proof of evidence, and Director Wray is asleep at the wheel. I mean, if you go in there, bring me a piece of that pie to the sky when you finally get it. And this is to Republican voters. When you finally reach up and get that piece of pie in the sky, that literal piece of pie, then you bring me this. We're looking forward to it. And so, this is where we're at, Democrats. From an independent point of view, looking at this thing as an independent voter, do you like what you see here? You have a president that has no respect, zero, zilch, nada for the Constitution. And we're going to take a chance here and vote him in for another 4 years to lead America forward. Lo and behold, that we don't, have another pandemic, a world sickness that, occurs under his watch. And so, we have to really get busy, Democrats. There's no other way to say it. We beat them once, and we definitely can do it again. For the sake of the country, we have to. For the sake of the country, we have to. Mr. Archer, who was, if I'm not mistaken, Hunter's business partner, he's spoken. He's come before Congress, before committee, or what have you. And this was the man in the room. This is not a fly on the wall. This is not somebody who is going before the committee with hearsay. Mr. Archer was the man in the room. Another reason why Democrats, we have to catch fire with, Attorney General Garland going along with appointing a special counsel. He's spoken. He's got his father. He's spoken to Hunter, got his father on the phone numerous occasions. Only for the appearance or the illusion of his access to power and what he could do in order to gain an upper hand in whatever business negotiations he was in. That's all. No more, no less. But yet we have Republicans, we're in investigation city right now, investigation mania, and there's nothing there. How stupid can we be? How stupid can we be? Now, luckily, we're in the majority. But the question is, and this is especially to that 90-something percentile, can we stay in the majority? The president has rolled up his sleeves. He's doing the best that he can. And democracy is a work in progress. The president has no power over world markets. He has influence. What United States president doesn't. He has influence over the world markets, but not complete control and or power. When it comes to grocery prices, gas prices are fluctuating or what have you. But we have a president in office, with his sleeves rolled up, trying to do the best that he can for the American people. Now, is it broken? Our position here at Soluble is no. So don't try to fix it. Can the Republicans stop investigating for a week? That's all we ask here at Soluble, is to stop investigating for a week and bring bills to the floor. Bring common sense bills that would move America forward, the American people, when it comes to the economy, when it comes to climate, when it comes to the troops. Bring a bill forward here, or some bills, for a week. That's what we're asking here at Soluble, for the Republicans to cease investigations. Let's see what they have against our president, the president that we the people have put into office, and a former president would not refuse to step down for. For the first time in American history, in our young history, 247 years in, the first time in our young history where we didn't have a peaceful transfer of power. Now we want to solve it. That's what we're here for. This is not for likes, retweets, trying to go viral, or anything of the sort. First and foremost, we want to solve it. So if you cease investigations for a week, which is all we're asking, and bring bills to the floor, let's see what you have to solve the problems that we're facing today. And we stated here before, when it comes to the southern border, there has to be a number there. Has it always been? We don't know the particulars here at Soluble, but if we were to say there was a number that annually or every 3 years that, the United States of America said, okay, we're going to let this many in, besides asylum seekers. And we know that, the country is so great, the country has so much promise and wealth that, a lot of times the asylum seekers, a lot of times they're gaming the system and claiming asylum under false pretenses because the country is so great. But we're asking Republicans to cease investigations for a week and bring a bill to the floor when it comes to the southern border. How many, should we let in? How many, if any at all? And we know the Republicans' position on this. We don't think that they're anti-immigration. We're going to give them the benefit of the doubt here at Soluble, but we don't think that they're anti-immigration. We're a land of immigrants. So, how many do you want? Let's solve it one way or another. How many should we as Americans, allow to enter our borders or enter our country on whatever given basis that the American government allows them to come in, whether it's, every year, once every 3 years, whatever it is. How many? And we can begin to solve this. Now, going back to the politics of race, and, this is for the sake of awareness for the American voter to let you know where we're at when it comes to this thing. We have the Republican Party that's went so far right, so bitterly right in this so-called browning of American process that, they folded their arms. They don't want to govern. And, it's caused them to lose touch with humanity. We see the hatred comes out more and more for people who don't look like what the Republicans consider the American people. And, so Hillary had to suffer. And up next, who? Joe Biden. Now, somehow, some way, no matter who we put up to run, and this goes back to, since Bill Clinton, no matter who we put up to run, there's something going on with them that needs to be investigated. And, they're just not right for the American people. And so, we're going to break it down here to you here at Soluble. so you can see it plainly in black and white. You know, the Democratic Party is for Americans of all stripes, whether you're native born, whether you're immigrant. You know, they're for everyone getting a piece of the pie. And because of this, the Republicans have stooped to a new low and lost touch with humanity. They hate Hillary because she's for everyone. And so, you know, they're not going to come out and say, you know, well, Hillary's a nigger lover. Or you know, Hillary is, you know, she's bad for America because, you know, she's opening up opportunity and equality for everyone. When the American way is, you know, the piece of the pie or the pie itself is for Caucasian America. And if there's any left, once we get full and once we've had enough, if there are any crumbs left, you know, pieces of crust or something you can stick your finger in and get a piece and lick it off your finger, then that's for other so-called minorities. That's for them. But the pie is there for Caucasians only to consume. So Hillary, what are you doing? And so that's basically what's going on here, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to the Democratic Party. As I said, they put in 2008, they put the best man for the job in office. There was a primary. There were other contestants on the stage. The American people, we the people, decided that the best man, who just happened to be a Negro, for the job of President of the United States of America going into 2008 was Barack Hussein Obama. And there was a problem. There was a problem there. And so, you know, that's where we're at. You won't hear this from CNN, Fox, MSNBC, or none of the other, you know, leading media circles. But it's soluble here. We can't solve. How can we solve? How can we begin to approach a solution if we don't tell it like it is? And so, moving on from Hillary, the same thing. We have the Biden crime family now. And there's never been nothing that's ever existed, something that's called the Trump Organization. It's never existed. We've never heard of it. Don't want to show his taxes. Constantly surrounded by lawyers. Been fined before he was even president. Been fined as a so-called real estate tycoon. He's been in trouble with the authorities, trying to duck, trying to dodge. But no, here we have the Biden crime family. What level of hypocrisy? What level of hypocrisy? And it's not to say that, you know, our party on the left doesn't, you know, engage in hypocrisy from time to time. But the difference is, as Democrats, we call it out. We address it. We don't sweep it up under the rug or look the other way and then say that we're patriots. We're American citizens who stand solidly behind the Constitution. And if the Republican Party did, if they are patriotic to the Constitution, if they do stand solidly behind, this democracy, they would call it out. They would call it out. But no, hypocrisy rules the day here. Hypocrisy rules the day. And so, because the Democratic Party and its current president, Joseph R. Biden, is willing to level the playing field for Americans of all stripes. And this is where we are in the politics of race. Because they're willing to level the playing field for Americans of all stripes, whether you're native born, whether you immigrated here, whether you're on a working visa or what have you. And the Republicans don't want any of this. They don't want any of it. And so the American taxpayers' dollar continues to get wasted on investigations to nowhere. Congressman Comer, he was asked here just a couple weeks ago, do you, and by of all people, a right-wing media personality, and Sean Hannity, ask him, do you have, yes or no, plain and simple, do you have the goods on the president? And what was the congressman's response? I sure hope so. I sure hope we do. And so the taxpayers' dollars gets wasted here. How do you solve it? You vote them out. We need a majority here. You know, they talk about a red wave. You know, we thank God that we didn't have that in 2022. But you know, we need to make this blue wave something that is not a thing of imagination. Now we know that, you know, there are a lot of them in a lot of Democratic circles. You know, they're wanting to have what they call here competition. You know, people who are other Democratic candidates, you know, to come on and establish debates with the current president. Why would we do this? We have a problem as Democrats drowning out the outside noise. We have a problem drowning out the outside noise. It hasn't even been 4 years. It's leading into 4 years. But it hasn't been 4 years where we begged Joseph R. Biden to come out of retirement and run for president. As what was the number one reason to stop as a Trump stopper? Because the American people felt like if there was anybody that can get America back on track from the MAGA train wreck that we were on the tracks rolling on, it was Joseph R. Biden. And so it hasn't been 4 years where they've literally begged this man to run. And now all of a sudden, you know, he needs to be replaced. We need someone new. He's doing the best he can. And more than anything, our position here at Soluble is that, you know, we feel strongly that if President Biden wasn't up to the task of another 4 years, he would voluntarily step down. Now, it would be a shame for Democrats who can't drown out the white noise coming from the right to, you know, let them tell us what we should and shouldn't do with our candidates, with our sitting president. Now, the Attorney General Garland has already caved. To a party of no when we have the power. When the American people have voted Merrick Garland into office and told him to, you know, run a Justice Department that is clean cut, fair to the American people, and, you know, it follows the evidence wherever the evidence may lead. And here you have the Attorney General not going along with the evidence, but he's going along with the noise coming from the Republican Party. And lo and behold, as he's giving in, they still want more. They're still not good enough. And so, you know, if we as Democrats don't rally our fellow independents, I mean, you know, we're going into the primaries, going into the election season, we're going to open up, you know, the books on all of former President Trump's accomplishments that were good for America, that we can see any good in for all of America, not just millionaires and billionaires. We're going to, you know, look at all that the fact checkers had to deal with. We're going to look at the good and bad of the Republican Party in order to move America forward in this two-party system that we have. We have to give the former president the benefit of the doubt, but, you know, at the same time, can we say that, for example, one of the former president's strong suits was that he was a businessman. He knowed about money. He can help with the economy. Our position here at Soluble is, you know, what good is the economy? What good is a president who's good at business when, you know, we have civil unrest throughout the country? What good is my dollars in my pocket when I can't even drive up to the grocery store or to the shopping mall or to the movie theater without ducking bullets, without, you know, risk of a mass shooter, or people who are threatening to secede from the union again, you know, taking up arms, the MAGA crowd from January the 6th. What good is a pocket full of dollars with civil unrest? What good is a pocket full of dollars when world peace is unstable? So, from that wise old prophet, we know that money is the root of all evil. And, while it's what we use as a receipt for goods and services in the world for things that we need, it's good to have. We need it for those in a free market system. But are we willing to throw the republic out the window for the sake of, just for the sake of argument, saying the president is good on the economy? He's good on for business. And so, that's where we're at. Because, it's the former president or the Constitution. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. He has no respect, for the founding document. He has no respect. Has he read it? Does he understand it? We think not. And, as I said, the Republicans, they really don't. They don't want him to run. He's this Frankenstein monster that they created, and now they can't control him. And they expect us, the American people, to listen to them on the debate stage when they don't have even the spine to deal with this monster that they've unleashed on the American people. So, as Democrats, we're in the majority. We know that we're comfortable in the fact that we have a good bit of independence on our side. If the former president, if the vote was held today, he would be the nominee who runs against President Biden. And so, we're in the majority. Make no mistake about it. Don't be discouraged. And I'm speaking here highly now to that 90-something percentile, because as that 90-something percentile people of color go, so goes the Democratic Party. Now, we have seats at the table to push back. If we don't like something that the Democrats are doing, or something that our Democratic president is doing, like, for example, if it was a 94 crime bill all over again, we have seats at the table to push back. And so that's why we must hold a line with this percentage that we have. We can't let it dwindle down into the high 80s. We have to hold this 90-something plus percentile, because as it goes, so goes the Democratic Party and the election. You're not getting anything from the other side. As I said, and it is what it is, unless the Republican Party can show us anything different. You have these so-called minorities in the Republican Party. You have them on the ticket now, Senator Scott, Governor Haley, Vivek Ramaswamy, Larry Elder. But they're water carriers. They have no seat at the table. They're water carriers. You have prominent, powerful Republicans sitting around the table, especially when it comes to president and vice president in particular. They're sitting around the table, and you have these so-called minorities coming up to the table with a towel draped across their forearm and a picture in their hand saying, "Water, sir. Coffee, tea, sir." That's it. They're water carriers for the Republican Party. And nothing has changed from the time that Strom Thurmond rebelled, when Truman got ready to integrate the military, and Strom Thurmond rebelled out of the Democratic Party, and this is whether the parties turned over. They were Democrats. Harry Truman got ready to integrate the military during World War II. Strom Thurmond and, a group of followers rebelled from the Democratic Party and became the Dixiecrats and moved over to the Republican Party. Now, since then, from then to now, we haven't seen a so-called minority, to lead the ticket for president or come in, as the vice president, as the right-hand man to the president. We haven't seen it. So the only conclusion that we can come to is there are no seats at the table in this party. Because when it's not about who the best man for the job is. And this is what the Republican Party has demonstrated. And so, reason number one, and by no means do we, as that 90-something plus percentile people of color, think that the Democratic Party is going to save us. But with those seats at the table, we have the ability to save ourselves, and better yet, save America from itself. From itself. You can't get, you're not going to get anything done on the right. Hypocrisy at an all-time high. Technology, brainwashing, fear-mongering. Here's a party, the Republican Party, that staunchly states and firmly believes that we're in a country that's right of center. And they have every right to believe that. That's the great thing about America. They're firmly entrenched in their belief that the country is right of center. But at the same time, they're doing everything they can to make it harder for people to vote. Well, how's that? How is it that here you have a party that believes this, but yet they're not comfortable with letting people vote? It just doesn't jive. It doesn't pass the smell test. If I'm confident that the country is left of center, let them vote. And that's why I encourage that 90-something plus percentile to show up on election day. And debunk this myth. We know that if we get that 90 plus percentile, along with our other fellow Democrats and independents who are on the side of common sense democracy, we know that if we get them to show up, we know that we're comfortable that we're going to have the numbers. We don't have to go out and try to make it hard for people to vote. We're going into Republican-controlled areas, and we're tampering with their ballot boxes. Here you have a governor of a blue state, and he's going around throughout the state doing everything he can to make it hard for Republicans on the right to vote in said state. And so you have to look into this very deeply in order to see the lies, in order to see the hypocrisy. You can't have it both ways. And this, Democrats, is what we have to become more aware of, that the Republican Party wants to do. They want to have it both ways in all types of situations. And the one I just laid out is it's a very serious offense. The country is right of center, but yet we're going to do everything we can to keep you from voting. Here's a red state governor doing everything he can to stop the Democratic vote. But they're comfortable that the country is right of center. These are the liars and the thieves that, we're going to allow to govern the country if we don't show up on election day. And we're going to expose it, at every turn. At every turn. That the Republican Party wants to have it both ways. They now that, the former president is in trouble with the law. They're digging up that corpse called Hillary Rodham Clinton. She can't rest in peace. Bless her heart. She can't rest in peace. But now here they want to have it both ways. You're controlling the DOJ. You're the head of the FBI. It's Republican control. And there's Hillary in all her corruption and crimes. But yet there are no charges. There are no charges. Because it was just a stunt, a ploy to muddy the waters, poison her up, make her name in political circles, unwinnable. And it served its purpose. And the country moved on. But now that the country has moved on from the former president and put President Biden in office, same FBI director. Now all of a sudden, it's a two-tier system. Well, if it's two-tier, it's because the Republicans created a two-tier system. Why didn't they prosecute Hillary? Why didn't they bring forth the evidence and put her on trial? And in the words of the former president and his MAGA rights, lock her up. The willingness was there. The enthusiasm was there. You heard it chanted regularly at campaign rallies, which is one of the only things the former president, is good at, showing up for his base. But you heard it constantly at the campaign rally. Lock her up, lock her up. And so now that the system of checks and balances and laws that we have are acting accordingly, because no one is above the law. Now that they're acting accordingly, based on evidence, all of a sudden, Hillary got away, and it's a two-tier system. As I said, that pie in the sky, and this is to my fellow Republican voters, my fellow countrymen on the right. When you literally get that piece of pie in the sky, whether it be apple, blueberry, sweet potato, pecan, whatever, I really would like to have a piece of it. And if you never get it, then it's proof that these things are never happening. There's no there. But if you let the Republicans tell it, there's a two-tier system here. Well, our position here at Soluble is that if there is a two-tier system, then it's of the Republicans' own creation. And they created the two-tier system, and now they're crying about it. You know, to my fellow Americans, especially Democrats, we're never going to get anywhere as a country. Here we are 247 years in. We're still the leaders of the world. But that leadership has been threatened. That leadership has been tarnished, diminished by the former president. He embarrasses us as a country. He's in North Korea saluting subordinates instead of having subordinates salute him. What is he doing in North Korea in the first place? Not on behalf of the American people, not on behalf of the Republic, on behalf of the Trump name and the Trump brand, to be able to say, I went there. And no other president ever did. No other president ever thought it was worthy of the visit. A communist country, starving and killing his own people. And here you are, a president of a freedom-loving country where it's we the people, and you're going to go and visit a place such as that to try to put it on the same level as the United States of America? But as I said, the former president is just racist enough to get the job done. And he said what, at the time of former President Obama's election, he began to say what a lot of Republicans and racist Caucasians were feeling at the time. He began to not just think it, but to actually say it. And so he became the savior. He became, the Caucasian Moses of the day, who is going to save America. He is the one. In all evangelical circles, he is the one. In Christian conservative circles, he is the one. He is the one. Because he said it. He didn't just think it, but he said it. And he put a rejection out there that racist America was feeling. But here we are in the year of our Lord 2023, and racist America is in the minority. And to my fellow Democrats and independents, you know what we have to do to keep them there. As I said, if the Republicans have good ideas, let's bring them forward. We're going to, going forward into the election season, we're going to look into, the bills that the Republicans have brought to the floor with the slim majority that they have in the House. We know that they can investigate like no other. If investigations were the bar that was set there, that where we measured how good or bad our politicians were. If investigations were, the thing that we base all good American legislation on in order to move us forward as a country and keep us leaders of the free world, the Republican Party is the place to be for any red-blooded American. If that was the case, it wouldn't be a Democratic or independent party. but we know it's not. We know it's not. And, the world is moving on. It's in God's will, as far as the final say in what happens with mankind, his creation. But the Republicans are just willing to play that role. They're just willing to take those matters into their own hands. And we know that, man in his ways of infallibility is going to mess it up. He's going to muck it up. And so, this is a kumbaya moment for my fellow Republican voters and Republican office holders. We're all here sharing this planet together. And, it would be better if we lived together versus dying together. Will the Republican Party, begin to govern in a position, that is not one of folded arms or clenched fists? It remains to be seen. And going into the primaries, into the debates, it's really going to be exposed. What you see is what you get here. What you see is what you get. And so, we have to get ready, to my fellow Democrats and independents. And we look forward to those on the right, who are listening, who want to have input. Show us what you got. Show us what you got. The people that you're voting into office, what are they doing for the country? The investigations, they do nothing. We have water damage, fire damage, wind damage. These things are happening on a regular basis. We have gun violence in the country. We have things going on in foreign lands, and when it comes to foreign policy, where we need to show strong leadership, keep a strong coalition there, and not try to be a country that goes at it alone. But as the world turns, and these things are very doable with our politicians working together. They're very doable. And yet, the Republican Party stands to the far right with arms folded, fists clenched, and they're telling us, the American people, that we have to go after the Biden crime family. And this is, once again, dumb and dumber. It's dumb for the Republicans to keep bringing these fruitless investigations, but it's even dumber for you, the American people, to go for it. So it remains to be seen, but we look forward to what do they have to counter what President Biden is doing. If they don't agree with the Inflation Reduction Act, what do they have? What is the solution? If they don't agree that everyone should pay their fair share, and the IRS shouldn't be beefed up with newer, more modern equipment, beefing up the staff to go after tax cheats, which would help the deficit. If they don't think that's a good idea, then show us what you have. And so, because the Democratic Party is a party that opens a tent to all Americans of all stripes, they're hated by the party on the right. That's what it's grown to. There used to be compromise here. But, since the early 90s, when former Speaker of the House Newt Gingrich came with the Contract for America, it's gotten worse and worse and worse. And here we are with, very little compromise going on. We've had some strange bedfellows. Senator Cruz, Senator Warnock, Congresswoman AOC, and Congressman Ben, his name escapes me right now. Crenshaw, Congressman Crenshaw, if I'm not mistaken. They've come together with proposed legislation, and we need to see more of it. it's good for the American people. It's good for the American people. And it moves us forward as a country. Right now, although we're not spinning, we're moving, far too slow because we won't drown out that noise that's coming from the right. you know. But make no mistake about it, to my fellow Democrats and those independents, who are going to throw their weight on the side of democratic politics in America. We have to show up here. We have to show up. There's nothing here that until we see it. There's nothing here that we have to go on that would tell us right now that the Republican Party, has a plan to move all of America forward as a country. We just don't see it. And so pay attention coming up to the debates. We're going to open up the books when it comes to, the former president, because by all polls, he looks like, the leading contender for the competition to president of the United States against President Biden in 2024. So we're going to open up the books and we're going to look at, what the former president has done that's benefited the country. We want to give him the benefit of the doubt here at Soluble. We want the president to win. If he's been voted into office, it doesn't matter whether it's Republican or Democrat. Well, let me take that back. We want Democrats in every twist and turn. But if it just so happens where our numbers are not there and there's a Republican president in the Oval Office, we want him to win. Because when he wins, America wins. We want him to win. And so, as damning as we are towards the former president, we're going to open up the books and we're going to give him the benefit of the doubt and take a real good long look see, as to, what we got in those 4 years and what we may or may not be able to look forward to if, God forbid, he was to get another 4 years. And so, stay tuned. There's a lot of fact checking to be done. There's a lot more things to point out to you, the American people, the American voter. But please know in closing tonight that if it is a two-tier system, it is of the Republicans' creation. It's of the Republicans' creation. And, this is a party that wants to have it both ways. They want to lock her up. They want to humiliate her and poison her name up in politics. There's the Biden crime family that's bad for America, and the Trump organization is good. And our position here at Soluble is that there's good and bad in everyone. And so there's no way that we can say that, agree with the fact that, or the talking point that all Republicans are good and wholesome and trying to do everything they can to help America, nor can we say the same thing about Democrats. Because we know there could be corruption and bribery or what have you in either party. And the ultimate goal is to have them reaching across the aisles at the end of the day. That will be Soluble's goal until, the day we cease to broadcast here on the air. Our goal will be to bring these two parties together and to rally the vote in the best interest of America, which at this critical juncture, 247 years in, we feel like is democratic politics are best for America. Because on the right, there's nothing but in fruitless investigations. And until we see anything else, what other conclusions can we draw? What other conclusions can we draw? And so we're going to look at, what's been passed by the Republican House. We're going to look at the former president's record, to see, what good things he's done for America. And, see if the benefits outweigh the risk here. And that's what, we all should be doing as American voters. Do the benefits of a second Trump presidency outweigh the risk to the Republic? And so we're going to let the facts speak and let the facts, bear that truth out, and we'll let the chips fall where they may. We thank you for joining us tonight here at Soluble. leading into the first Republican debates. We're going to bring you as much footage as we can, much insight as we can, to let you know what's going on between both parties in order to have a political system of compromise, where you have a 2/3 majority wins, but there is give and take on both sides, and everyone can go home with a little something, but with not everything that they wanted. That's our goal here at Soluble, and that's what we see as a political solution to getting back to the way things were when politicians did reach across the aisle when it came to a good idea for America and the American people, regardless of party. Thank you for joining us tonight. We look forward to seeing you again on our next broadcast here in the next couple of days. Stay informed. We encourage you. Stay vigilant and be ready to rock this vote in 2024. This is Soluble signing off. At the end of the day, if there's anything that we're here for, always remember we're trying to solve, and we're never at the conclusion that we alone here at Soluble is able to solve it. We welcome all input from the right, from the left, from the middle, what have you. Because at the end of the day, what's best for America is what our goal is here at Soluble. Thank you for joining us. Until we meet again, this is Soluble signing off. Good night and God bless. Thank you.